Jon Sumrall is absolutely dominating his first transfer portal window as the head coach of the Florida Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free to listen to the podcast and on YouTube. I am Brandon Olsen. Find all my written work for New York Giants on SI, swampsignal.substack.com, where we're going to have scouting reports coming out about all of the transfer portal editions. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is almost wrapping up. Miami's in the national championship. This can't get worse, and FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day, including today for the Big Ten championship, I guess, between Indiana and Oregon. But I wanted to talk today about how Jon Sumrall's approach to the transfer portal is insane. It's working out great, right? But it like the approach itself is very interesting, at the very least, is what we can call it. But they're also just doing a really good job with the evals and the approach there. And for Florida, you've got a lot of spots to fill. It's important to remember that we are now at the full-blown 105-man roster limit. There's not so much, the 85, because it used to be, even, when Napier got here, it used to be 85 scholarships, and you could have basically as many walk-ons as you want, right? And then it shifted to like the 105. The SEC had an 85-man scholarship limit where walk-ons could get grandfathered in. And now we're at a full-blown 105-man scholarship limit. And it's important to remember this when we're talking about filling out this roster, right? Because no longer is it where you go, we have 85 scholarships, and then we fill out the rest with walk-ons. Like, that was the thing when Billy Napier was here, was we want to build this walk-on program and have guys that develop into contributors and depth pieces and all that. And now that Jon Sumrall is here with this new trend, with this new roster limit, it's a bit different because Florida is going after guys with experience at every level. They're going after guys with experience that are going to contribute in multiple ways, or guys that even are going to have experience and not touch the field, really. That's just the reality of the situation. Yesterday they added London Montgomery, who we will talk about at some point during this show. They added Carter Milliron, the long snapper from Louisiana. London Montgomery's running back. Carter Milliron, long snapper from Louisiana, who we went live for yesterday at 3:30 in the morning. Why? Because we could. Simple as that. I guess technically this morning at 3:30 in the morning, but because we could. And this transfer portal approach is something that's new for Florida Gators fans, right? Because every portal commit that comes in, people want it to be hype and want it to be awesome. But the reality is some of these guys are just depth pieces. Even the guys that we do like their film, some of them are just going to be depth pieces. And that's it. And that's okay. Like that's not a bad thing. But Jon Sumrall so far has been absolutely crushing it in the transfer portal, just with the additions, right? Defensively, you've added guys like DJ Coleman and Cam Dooley, both at safety. I think those are awesome additions. You got Emmanuel Ibadejo on the defensive line, who's one of the more highly sought after defensive line recruits. You've got your potential QB1 in Aaron Philo, which maybe you don't want to give them as much credit for that because Buster Faulkner is the entire reason that Aaron Philo even hit the transfer portal. And it's a pretty easy connection there. So maybe you don't even want to give him credit for that one, right? You brought in Evan Pryor from Cincinnati, and he's just a speed demon. There's no other way to put it. You brought in multiple offensive linemen, or 2 offensive linemen so far from Penn State. Maybe you go for another at some point, but Florida does not really have traction with any other Penn State guys. They are still pursuing linemen, just not from Penn State. But it's just the approach here is one that raises both the floor and the ceiling, right? You add starters and you're raising your ceiling, but also with all the experience that you're adding, you raise your floor. If there are injuries that happen and some of your depth pieces need to get thrown into playing time, you've got guys with experience. Like Jon Sumrall is not effing around. We've said it multiple times, right? Jon Sumrall is not effing around with this roster building process right now. He's someone that when he got hired, there was a ton of skepticism around, and then Florida win, and they're getting big name players and that everybody wanted, right? Emmanuel Obadejo was ending a visit with Texas A&M when he committed to Florida, and he had a visit set up with Missouri. I want to say it was another SEC school. I think it was Missouri. Set up right after that, and instead of taking that Missouri visit, took the Florida visit or committed to Florida. Like Jon Sumrall is not playing around with building this roster. I love the approach, and I'm someone that used to really value the high school approach, but frankly, now like there's kids that finished a true freshman season at Florida this year and then transferred out that would have had roles, right? Like Nashawn Montgomery, he would have had a role here. I don't think there are many people that would have said, you know what? Let me not take Nashawn Montgomery. Let me take a Malachi Coleman, for example, who visited this weekend or during the week and at this point is not committed. I don't know if he's a take or not, but I think a lot of people would have rather said, hey, I'll take Nashawn Montgomery and his youth and potential instead of a guy that's been in college for a few years, is tall and fast, but has virtually no legitimate production. I would take Nashawn Montgomery over him. I'll say that. But Nay left, right? And I think that you've seen quite a few guys now leave that could have had roles, but don't. And also, I just want to circle back to this real quick. The fact that we've seen so many Florida Gators that transferred out go to SEC schools, I feel like that's a really good indicator that the talent was there on this roster. They went 4-8, but the talent was there on this roster. Sharif Denson and Mekhi Boyro went to Ole Miss, who just got eliminated from the College World Playoff semifinal yesterday. Right? Hayden Hansen went to Oklahoma, who is in the College Football Playoff. Yeah, Jordan Castell and Aaron Gates both went to Kentucky. New era under Will Stein. Like these guys go. Aiden Mizell went to UCLA. Trey Wilson went to LSU. Only one of those guys is not in the SEC. You've got a bunch of Power 4 guys. Cameron Cosman didn't touch the field last year and still got a Power 4 transfer with Boston College. Like there was talent and potential on the team. It was just the coaching staff just shot you entirely. But I do really like the approach that Florida's taken here because I do think that the multi-year eligibility is an important part of this. A lot of the guys that Florida took have experience and have played, but also have multiple years of eligibility. And so if they're thrown into the rotation in 2026, if they're thrown into action in 2026, then you at least know, hey, the guys that I'm playing have experience, have played college football before, have been here, won't be, completely shell-shocked by the experience of playing in college football. But they've also got multiple years of eligibility. And with multiple years of eligibility, you can develop these guys. Like you could sit there and develop these players like a Bailey Stockton, who's going to have a couple years of eligibility, like a Lakata Dupree, the tight end, who's going to have a couple years of eligibility. Like Cam Dooley, who's going to have a couple years of eligibility. There's some visits on campus this weekend, too, that are going to be guys that have played and have experience, but have multiple years of eligibility. And so this is kind of the way where you can truly supplement high school recruiting through the transfer portal, or at least some of high school recruiting through the transfer portal, by saying, we're bringing in guys that are, yes, elevating our floor right now by having experience. And if they play, and we can trust them. And we've seen them play college football before. So, yes, we're bringing in guys right now that elevate our floor in that way. But we're also elevating our ceiling for now and the future by those same guys having multiple years of eligibility remaining. And we can develop them over time and actually improve them and improve our ceiling long term. And I think that approach is it's an awesome approach right now that Florida's taking. Who knows how long they're going to take that approach? But for now, it's awesome. And we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about the commits the Florida Gators got last night when we get back with Locked On Gators. Let's talk about something that most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life. It doesn't just switch off at night, right? And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rouge Yet Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rouge Yet Ready is a next generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. It combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to rougiet.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rouge Yet Ready. Feel present, feel confident, and feel ready. And thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free in the podcast and on YouTube. By the way, if you want to be part of the Insider program, go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGators, where we have been, there's been tons of messages going out every day with just rumors, news, my thoughts on some of the things that you get there. And that Florida is pursuing what more you might need. Some of the players coming in, if their takes or not, which again, like some of these players, I think it's important to acknowledge the role that you're expecting them to play when talking about, are they a take? Like Micah May is the wide receiver. If he's someone that you expect to play significant snaps in 2026, I don't think he should be a take. Because honestly, I don't love him, right? But if he's someone that you say, hey, that's depth with 1,000 snaps played in his career, and if he needs to play, then we have someone with 1,000 snaps played, go for it. Right? If you want that, you can go to lockedongators.supercast.com as well to join the Locked On Gators Everydayer Club. We've got a Discord set up there. We've got a Discord where you can talk with a whole bunch of other Locked On listeners and Locked On hosts, and we're all in there. And hey, sometimes it's a damn good time. But the Florida Gators added London Montgomery yesterday, a running back that was originally at Penn State and then transferred to East Carolina, where this past year he was their leading rusher. And he had, first off, the film looks pretty good. But as a rusher in 2025, he had 157 carries, 737 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Has not fumbled yet in his career. I say yet just to be safe. Receiving wise, he had 14 catches this year for 81 yards. Reliable pass catcher there. Had a drop in his first game and hasn't since then. But someone that makes this running back room really interesting, right? Because you've got, of the guys that played, so the guys we talked about yesterday, the guys that played were Jaden Ball, who's going to be your lead back, right? Duke Clark is back on your roster. Those are the 2 backs that played in 2025. And by played, I mean, didn't just come for a cup of coffee, played. So those are your 2 backs that played in 2025. You've got Evan Pryor from Cincinnati, who had, 7 yards per carry at Cincinnati, just fast as all hell. You've got London Montgomery from East Carolina, who has 2 years of eligibility remaining, has been productive so far throughout his career, 4.5 or 4.7 yards per carry. So he's been productive to this point in his career so far. And then you have guys that haven't played yet that, could play a role in 2026 or could compete for a role in 2026, where you've got, Byron Lewis from the 2025 class, which, by the way, still has the best, is it lottery ticket? The Byron. So you've still got that. And so you've got essentially 5 backs that we could talk about as legitimate SEC backs. You lost guys like Katie Daniels and Trayon Webb, and it's just like, frankly, that is what it is. Katie Daniels was a recruit that I really liked, but never came close to panning out for Florida. Trayon Webb, had injuries, and the film, frankly, in my opinion, wasn't that good. I just didn't like it that much. But London Montgomery now makes your running back room deeper, more productive, and more interesting. And frankly, probably 2 of those 5 names are not going to play much in 2025. Is that going to be one of the guys that were freshmen last year that, you have more time to be a backup and develop, but then, will they be back in 2027 if they don't play in 2026? Maybe. Do you say, hey, it's Evan Pryor who has 1 year of eligibility remaining, isn't the guy that cracks the rotation? And you kind of go, all right, like we don't have to worry about him coming back in 2027. Is it London Montgomery, who has already transferred a couple of times and maybe is going to be here in 2027? It's just an interesting thing to think about with how this running back room works out because it's talented, no doubt about that. All right, Jaden Ball, we know he has 1 year left, 2 years of eligibility. He's going to be in college for one more year, and then he's going to go pro. And so I'm knocking on wood just to, be superstitious about things. But it's talented. Jaden Ball, 1 year. Evan Pryor, 1 year. London Montgomery, 2 years left. And those 3 guys have all been productive in college football. Like Evan Pryor has not been a starter, but he's been productive because he's got 7 yards per carry. London Montgomery wasn't a starter for the first part of the year last year, and then was the starter. And once he became the starter, lit it up in most games. Right, one of his worst games of the season was against Tulane. So he saw Jon Sumrall, he saw Greg Gasparito, like he saw this defense, or more appropriately, this defensive coaching staff saw him and thought, yeah, that's someone we can bring with us and can contribute. And so you've got all that going into it where you've given yourself a really good running back room. And now it's just about figuring out who plays how much, who plays in what situation, because that could matter too, right? Like similar to how we've talked about with Bailey Stockton at slot, right? If you play a game where you're going to say, hey, we're going to go a lot of 12 personnel, Bailey Stockton's probably not going to play much. With, I don't know, London Montgomery, maybe you go, hey, we're having this game where we're not going to be throwing it back so much. That's not what attacks this defense well. So you're not going to play much because he's on film. He looks like a pretty comfortable receiver. Production's not really there, but that could be, due to multiple factors. It could be the scheme wasn't asking him to do that. It could be that the quarterback just isn't someone that when he's checking it down looks at running backs. We've seen that a lot. Some quarterbacks, they prefer to check down the tight ends, right? And East Carolina, look, they threw the ball a good bit. A lot of those went to receivers and tight ends, not running backs. So maybe that's part of the scheme, right? But it's just interesting because all these guys have skill sets and can fit and do multiple things, but someone has to be the odd man out. And that's a good problem to have, but it's one that until we get the answers, it's going to drive me nuts. I'm just going to make that clear. It's going to drive me nuts. But the Florida Gators running back room is, from top to bottom, really talented. I think they're mostly done there now. You've got 5 quality backs, so I think you're mostly done there. But Florida is still looking to add players. Yesterday, they pretty much wrapped up their special teams building. We'll talk about that when we get back with Locked On Gators. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of the playoffs, which, by the way, is today. Because right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. You get to use the profit boost on the bets that you already feel good about, right? You want to bet on Surratt to score a touchdown tonight? You could do that, and you can boost the odds, give yourself even more winnings. Saying FanDuel's the best place to get in on the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free right in the podcast and on YouTube. And last night, the Florida Gators made a second transfer portal addition, and this time it was Louisiana long snapper Carter Milliron. I apologize if I am mispronouncing that name. It could be Milliron, right? I think those are the most two likely possibilities, right? But Louisiana long snapper Carter Milliron, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, committed to Florida last night. He's been in college for 4 or 5 years, has a little bit of eligibility left, right? And unfortunately for a lot of people, I know this is going to hurt. Brace yourself. Is coming over from Louisiana. And so I know a lot of people are not going to like that one. But long snapper from Louisiana, 6 foot, 257 pounds. I'm pretty sure this year is going to be his last year of eligibility. Redshirted this year, only played in 4 games, the first 4 games for Louisiana. PFF grades are awful, but PFF grades are awful for Rocco Underwood as well. And I don't think anyone questions that Rocco is one of the best long snappers, if not the best long snapper in college football over the past few years. So we have decided PFF grades especially don't matter for long snappers. But Carter Milliron is someone that's going to come in with Tulane kicker Patrick Durkin, punter Alec Clark. And then you've got Coach Galante leading this all. And it's important to acknowledge 2 things. First off, Tulane had one of the better special teams units in the country last year. So pretty comfortable saying, all right, they know special teams. And 2, Florida had one of the better special teams units in the country last year. Rocco Underwood was arguably the best long snapper in college football. Trace Mack is going to be an NFL kicker. He had 4 misses last year. 3 of them came in week 1 against Long Island. The other one came at the end of the season against Tennessee. That's it. And Tommy Doman is a punter that a lot of people hate. Which when he came over from Michigan, there was a question I had of like, he does not get a lot of distance on his kicks. With going from Michigan to Florida, will that be easier? Will it be harder? Will it matter at all? Because, it's like, and my thought process on it was like baseball, right? In baseball, in warmer weather, the ball travels more. And so, like, the air is thinner, so ball travels more. So maybe it helps. And so that was my thought. Ended up not coming to fruition. But I do think it's also important to remember that I think one of the reasons people think Tommy Doman was bad is because he's a placement punter. Like, he's someone that if you get him around midfield, he's going to down the other team inside the 20. Because hang time, he led the country or was near the lead in the country in hang time per punt. So if he was punting from close to midfield, like again, if he was punting from the 40, then you're probably downing them inside I'll say inside the 25, but maybe the 20. Unfortunately, he was not. And so without having that big leg, it made him seem worse because he's punting from his own 10 and is getting the ball to the opposing 45, forcing a lot of fair catches. That stuff matters. You should still be able to. I don't know if Patrick Durkin has the leg of Trace Mack because Trace Mack boomed kicks. I do think that Alec Clark is going to be an upgrade from what we saw from Tommy Doman last year. Carter Milliron, I don't think he's going to be an upgrade from Rocco Underwood, but that's not a knock on Carter Milliron. That's a testament to how good Rocco Underwood was and has been. And so I'm interested to see what that's going to be. But again, special teams is like, I don't know how to tell you, hey, this guy's not a good long snapper. Does he have a bunch of mistakes? Yes, then he's not good. Does he have a bunch of mistakes? No, then I'm good with it. I think one of the things I care more about with long snappers is their coverage ability after the snap. 6 foot, 257 pounds. This dude is I want to know what Rocco Underwood's measurements were because like long snappers have an interesting build. They have a very interesting build. Rocco Underwood was 6'3", 231. So this is a completely different build where he's 26 pounds heavier, but 3 inches shorter. So that's going to be interesting. I would imagine he comes in probably a little lighter than that just with this strength and conditioning program. Because, well, he was working with Mark Hockey. So yeah, we'll say that because Mark Hockey went back to Louisiana. So we'll say that that this may be different. But Carter Milliron is someone that if Coach Galante wants him, I'm good with it. I don't know how to evaluate long snappers improperly other than I look for, are the snaps accurate? And by accurate, I mean, does your holder have to reach out and go and grab it? No, if it's coming there, then good. Do they have velocity? So, you're not lofting them up to you accurately, and how you cover. And so we'll look at all those things and we'll come up with our evaluation of Carter Milliron, but not exactly an expert at it, right? Thanks for Locked On Gators, your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free right in the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back, I think, later on today with at least one commit, I'm going to say. I think at least one commit. And we'll go live once that happens. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI and swampsignal.substack.com if you want Florida Gators written work. And I'll see you all next time.